We have some major breaking news as NASCAR has filed their response to 2011 Racing and Front Row in regards to their new preliminary injunction, and they will be open teams more than likely starting this weekend at Dover. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to your video. As I just said a second ago, we got some pretty massive major breaking news on the updates to the lawsuit, as NASCAR has officially filed a response to 2011 Racing and Front Row on their temporary restraining order and their preliminary injunction as well. Let's go back to earlier this week. Of course, we know that there's a chance and possibility that 2011 Racing and Front Row Motorsports will become open teams starting this weekend at Dover. The teams, 2011 Front Row, on Monday filed basically a restraining order and another preliminary injunction saying that they had additional evidence that could help them throughout this case. That basically showed that NASCAR was going to be willing to sell those charters once this thing had come through, and they'd be open teams for the remainder of the year. They wanted to continue being charter teams for the remainder of the season, throughout the remainder of this lawsuit as well, until the trial was officially concluded. Well, now let's also go back to last year. They had originally, Kenneth Bell had granted the charters to 2011 Racing and Front Row Motorsports and Stewart-Haas Racing charters as well, so they could be 3 charter teams, because there are in their contracts were drivers like Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, even Corey Heim as well, Riley Herbst, and Zane Smith and Todd Gillen all have in their contracts they are required to be charter drivers. So here's NASCAR's response. As reported by Jeff Gluck, NASCAR has filed its response to 2011 Racing Front Row's request for a temporary restraining order that would allow them to keep their charter status. Here's some interesting nuggets from this filing. NASCAR says the teams do not actually have the charters and never did, since they never agreed to the terms. NASCAR does. Thus, NASCAR believes they cannot get the charters back, and it's a false premise that giving them back would be maintaining the status quo. Point number 2. NASCAR says there is no credible risk or even threat that any of Platon's drivers will leave mid-season, let alone over the next 2 weeks. None of their evidence even makes that claim. Same with sponsors. Point number 3. NASCAR says it will not sell the charters until the court's ruling on the preliminary injunction motion, despite substantial interest in charters from motorsports companies racing IndyCar, Xfinity, and other series. Point number 4. Michael Jordan said in a deposition that 2011's long-term participation in NASCAR was contingent on permanent charters. When asked when he was hoping to get out of this lawsuit, his response was permanent charters and opportunity to race Cup, race stock cars. And point number 5, NASCAR says both teams have submitted the paperwork to run as open teams for the rest of the season, starting this weekend at Dover. Let's go through each point, beginning with point number 1, about teams not having the charters. This actually is technically true because they did not sign the original charter agreement for the upcoming charter deal that goes from 2025 to 2031, which coincides with the media rights deal with the TV side of things from 2025 to 2031 as well. Of course, with the lawsuit coming into play, that means that they did not sign their charter agreement, and that point is absolutely correct. And that means that they should also be able to get back the money as well, that being NASCAR courts, where they're also expected to be asking for the money back for the 20 races that they've ran so far for all 6 other cars, which in fact is over tens of millions of dollars that they have received. And basically, they want to continue being status quo, while Judge Niemeyer basically said that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sue NASCAR while you are filing a lawsuit against NASCAR at this. You can't sue NASCAR and then continue racing as charter teams. That's not working, and that's what Judge Niemeyer said during the original preliminary injunction case. Moving to point number 2, talk about the no credible risk for plaintiff drivers. Jeffrey Kelsler did say that there are driver contracts that do require the drivers to have a charter for the 2025 season. And what he mentioned last year in the original case is that let's say they don't have charters for the remainder of the season. Teams apparently are very interested in Tyler Reddick and other drivers in these teams as well, including Bubba Wallace, who does have a lot of sponsorship and funding with him. But the big one is Tyler Reddick. There is a potential possibility that, let's say they don't get their charters back for the remainder of the season, there is a very good chance that Tyler Reddick could become a free agent. And there are a lot of teams that I would think would basically pull out drivers or pay their drivers in their organizations and teams so that they basically could have the opportunity to get Tyler Reddick. Because Tyler Reddick, in my opinion, is one of the best top talents we have currently at the moment when it comes to racing craft and racing talent. And Tyler Reddick is someone who, in my opinion, is a future NASCAR Cup champion. And I think he's done a really solid job with 2011 over the course of the last couple of years and helped that team and program get up to speed very quickly. Same thing goes for Bubba Wallace as well. Yes, Bubba Wallace doesn't have the championship caliber talent. I think Bubba's a great driver, but not a championship caliber driver like Tyler Reddick is. But Bubba brings sponsorship and funding to the table. And Bubba is someone who will probably put you in a position where you could have opportunities ways and chances to pick up wins and pick up victories. I think Bubba's been having a good year of points despite the fact that this team's been off at times. He's also at times shown more speed than Tyler Reddick this year. And then Riley Hurts more than likely would also find a ride because Riley brings a ton of funding and sponsorship currently at the moment. Or you go back to Xfinity and trucks and probably do better in the lower series than being in Cup currently at the moment. But the other drivers at the teams, Todd Gillen, Zane Smith, and Noah Gragson, I'm a little worried about their futures at this point if this unfortunately goes through. Moving to point number 3, the selling side of things. There was a claim in the original 2011 and Front Row Motorsports upcoming preliminary injunction where they basically said that they were going to, basically there was an email that went to the organizations and teams where they said they were going to sell those charters in the coming days, and apparently there's a lot of teams that are interested in getting some of them. We have heard some organizations that might be very interested. Of course, I have to think Legacy Motor Club is one of them. Yes, Legacy is in a lawsuit currently at the moment with Rick Ware, and now TJ Pusher, who's looking to have a 3-car team as early as 2027. RFK Racing could be another team that is very interested in getting another charter, so they're not having at least one from Rick Ware Racing. And maybe, let's say, Junior Motorsports gets interest. Maybe Dale Jr. does that, where he basically gets some interest and maybe finally getting a charter so they can compete in the Cup Series in 2026. Though I'm not sure if that's going to happen at this point. The next big thing is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has been very much involved in the sport. If Michael Jordan somehow gets kicked out of the sport because of the situation with the lawsuit here, then man, that is not going to be a really good look for NASCAR, and it's going to basically be a bad look if Michael Jordan is out because of this lawsuit currently at the moment right now. But I would think he'll stick around for the remainder of the year. From what some have said, Michael Jordan was really mad at NASCAR at the time. He didn't show up for a ton of the season because of this. So if you're a Michael Jordan fan, if you're a 2011 racing fan, you probably should be concerned that Michael Jordan could be gone because of this. And the big point here, and why you're probably clicking on, is that teams are very likely going to be open teams starting this weekend at Dover. This is not shocking and surprising. Again, we have to wait for the ruling on the preliminary injunction with both responses coming out at this point right now. This tells me that we're probably going to get a decision sometime tomorrow. We could get a decision late tonight on this story, but more than likely either tomorrow or Friday, we are going to get a decision from the judge whether 20-11 and Front Row are going to be open teams for the remainder of the year, which again could have a big effect on those contracts for all the drivers part of the teams and organizations, which could open silly season up to a massive can of worms because, like I mentioned with Tyler Reddick, there's a very good chance and possibility that Tyler Reddick could end up becoming a free agent over this. Now, one thing that does need to be cleared up in this situation, 20-11 in Front Row with this is a separate situation. Yes, it's a big deal because now it does affect the on-track product for 20-11 in Front Row. One, if they do attempt to qualify for every single race, they will not basically be affected by that. If they will, there are people talking about maybe they would not have the opportunity to make the playoffs if they miss a race. If they attempt to qualify for every single race, they will be able to still make the playoffs. Bubba and Tyler Reddick are both currently still in the playoffs at this point, but let's say we get a bunch of different winners by the end of the year, and Reddick doesn't pick up a win and Bubba doesn't pick up a win, then both would unfortunately end up missing the playoffs at this point. Then you have the big question, could they skip races? I don't think they're going to skip races at this point. And like it was mentioned, I don't expect any one of these drivers to jump ship and move to other teams for the remainder of the year. I think this will continue on. The next big thing is the whole entire lawsuit in general. This does not have a full effect on the whole entire lawsuit. Now, this could have effect on some parts of the lawsuit where there is a potential possibility that if, let's say, 2011 Front Row do in fact win their case, one, they're more likely going to win all those charters back if they have lost, but number two, they're going to get all the money back they've got from the charters and all that. But if NASCAR sells it to other teams like, let's say, RFK Racing, who would like to be a 3-car team for many years, Legacy Motor Club, for example, Rick Ware, or whatever team TJ Pusher's got, teams in IndyCar like Chip Ganassi Racing, for example, maybe down the road of Trackhouse want to have some sort of partnership with the team. I think they would have to get those charters back, and it's just going to become messier and messier. I think what needs to come out from this situation is the judge rules there's like a compromise where 2011 and Front Row are not charter teams and organizations, but NASCAR cannot sell those charters until the end of the lawsuit. I think that'd be the best compromise at this point, and all those charters from like Stewart-Haas Racing and all that would go into an escrow account. And I think that's going to be interesting to follow as time goes on here. But this is definitely a major update for sure on the lawsuit. lawsuit. I'll give more of my opinions in the coming days about this, but there's a lot of facts that do need to be presented with this case, and that's what needs to be talked about here is the facts that are coming out from the responses from the teams and organizations as well. So we'll see what happens. A judge will likely rule on decision. I'm not exactly sure which judge is going to rule on it. It could be Kenneth Bell. We're not sure at this point, but I know Kenneth Bell's kind of tired of this lawsuit. There's people that are tired of it in the court system right now, and they're wanting to move on and get this lawsuit done. They're trying to get a settlement done at this point. NASCAR said that they've been open to a settlement, but apparently 2311 and Front Row have not budged on that settlement at this point. So we'll see what happens in the remainder of the lawsuit, but that's the big update today is NASCAR's response and very likely 2311 and Front Row being open teams for the remainder of this year, starting this weekend at Dover. So, that is going to take special breaking news report on NASCAR's response to the upcoming preliminary injunction. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, so if when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's get some more of that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts on NASCAR's response? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about 2311 and Front Row most likely being open teams starting this weekend at Dover? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to be doing paint schemes. We'll be talking about all the paint schemes from this weekend's race at Dover for Cup and Xfinity, and we'll probably be talking about the update on the 2311 and Front Row loss. If any major news breaks tomorrow, we'll discuss it live here. Friday, we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 NASCAR news videos dropping on the channel. And then, of course, we're also going to have the review for the ARCA race as well, more than likely. Then Saturday and Sunday, we have reactions to the Xfinity Series race and the Cup Series races as well, depending on what happens to the weather, because weather could definitely be a big factor for this weekend. We're going to have a lot of content dropping soon of people like Haley Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cards, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Connor Zilch, Junior Motorsports, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Ryan Preece, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, Carson Quaffle, Frankie Muniz, Dodge, Cletus Farm, Ram, you name it. All the good stuff we'll be talking about on the channel in the coming days and weeks. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.